Now we're recording. Sorry about that. Okay. Uh, should I go? I'll go. So David Sayer out of New York. So yeah, non-Pennsylvanian. I'm in the Albany area, Saratoga, New York, and currently actually working with Sustainable Saratoga on another restaurant type of initiative. I don't know if anyone else has a town that does an annual food fest. Ours is a chowder fest coming up in February, and it's our 25th, and I'm trying to replace the disposables. So we're going to do dishwashing with actual cups for thousands of people. Maybe not thousands in the first year, but we're going to do proof of concept for hundreds at least. And we've got our volunteers all ready to go. So looking forward to making that happen. It should be a party as well. So more fun than your average action. If you call washing dishes fun, of course.
David, super quick question. Where are you borrowing the dishwashers from?
So it's interesting. Obviously, restaurants are the ones serving chowder, but no businesses on our main street wanted to. It's one of their busiest days of the year, so I can't blame them. But we have two volunteer run organizations in our town. One is the Salvation Army. They have a full kitchen. And then another is a famous coffee house called Cafe Lena that is volunteer driven and has a dishwasher as well.
Okay, great.
But hopefully in future years, we'll get actual restaurants to open up their kitchens a little bit to us.
Okay. Thank you, David. We'll go to Ashley. Ashley, what are you working on?
Hi there. I'm along with David with the on the Beyond Plastics virtual group team, and I am in Long Beach, California. And I am working on I'm on the board of Upstream, and I focus most of my time kind of on reuse solutions, although I've been very concerned about plastics and the detrimental impact of plastics for probably about 25 years. So I feel like there's finally a little bit more focus on it, but it's still not nearly enough. So I would really love to see more like in Long Beach, for example. I would really we're a city of almost 500,000 people. I wish that the our leaders would actually start sharing some of the information about the detriments of plastics to our to residents.
Okay. Awesome.
Ashley's an animal advocate too.
Okay, wonderful. And how about we'll go to John? Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Tamara. John Sullivan up in Douglas, Alaska. I think maybe you need to reintroduce this meeting because the recording was going at first. But my interest is just that. I'm probably fighting more the cessation of our mindless purging of oil and the consequences. Um, Plastic, I have been probably laboring to properly dispose for at least 25 years now. Just walking down the street, but proper disposal doesn't help, I understand. And up here in the pristine Alaska environment, I don't doubt that we're drinking nano beads right now. We got to stop the desecration of this Garden of Eden. And I'm fighting the um, it's just a selfish, but it's better term greedy impulse uh, of the human behavior. And we can't discount the necessity for in environments like my own, where needs to be self-reliant, or at least they believe they've got to be. And nobody knows how to ask for help, which is a good question about the psychoanalytical approach I take to the mindless desecration of our garden through the fossil fuel extraction, purging, and not just for ourselves and the system of the planet, but for the well-being of our spiritual lives. Because we can't continue to live in trash,
Yeah.
and plastic is the main culprit there, I think.
John, do you
But
have
yeah,
something particular
you
that
know,
you'd like to work on?
yeah, I guess single use is probably my passion right now. Um, Avoiding the single use plastics.
Okay, okay, I will make a note of that. Okay, and let's see. Oh, so who else would like to go? Who hasn't gone? Julia, Jane, Hannah?
I can go.
Okay.
I'm cooking dinner right now, so I'm gonna stay off camera when I'm not talking because you don't need to see me running around my kitchen. But I'm with Three Rivers Waterkeeper. I'm based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And our mission is we hold polluters accountable, and we also have the mission for clean, drinkable, swimmable rivers in our region at large. We've been doing a lot of work around PFAS. We're also doing a lot of work with Shell's cracker plant, which is up on the Ohio River, and they're producing plastic nurdles, and we're already catching them in the river as we speak. And it's pretty much a nightmare. And then, tied to that, we're also in the heart of fracking in Appalachia, and we've been doing a lot of work looking at the systems in place and all of the new well pads and things that are coming in because the Shell cracker plant's using, a byproduct of fracking. And so it's kind of a whole system. But I also spent the last 6 years doing river cleanup on Pittsburgh's Three Rivers. So I picked up thousands and thousands of pounds of plastic. And so I'm excited to be on this side of things with you all. And I love hearing what everyone's working on.
Wonderful. Do you have something in
I've
mind?
I've only helped Tamala a little bit so far, but I'm thinking that I would like to of all the things that she works on, I think the single-use plastic would be the one to try and reduce that. I think is something that I would feel
Yeah.
strongest about.
All right, wonderful. I'm gonna actually just add your name, Julia, with John's here. Someone else who hasn't gone?
My name is Barbara, and I live in North Central PA, and I work on a lot of different things, but the main thing that I'm working on is trying to get wells plugged and trying to get people's awareness of the fact that the materials that they use for plugging wells are supposed to last 20 to 50 years, but generally, frequently they don't last a whole year and have to be plugged again. And the companies try to walk away from this and make you and I pay for cleaning up after they've gotten the oil and gas that they want, and they've made what profits they can. Then they try to just walk away and leave these wells so that the taxpayer has to pay to clean them up. And there's so many wells just in Pennsylvania alone. There's something like 750,000 abandoned wells. And these are wells that need to be plugged and replugged for the life of the planet until the industry is forced to come up with permanent materials, something that will permanently plug the well. But they're a long way from that right now. And even though there are materials that will last a lot longer than what they're doing, there's no legislation to force them to use the better materials. So they use the cheapest that they can legally get away with. and we all pay the price. And that price includes all of the garbage and the destruction of the environment, as well as the methane and all the other chemicals that are going into the atmosphere, and causing climate change and health effects and on and on and on.
Okay.
So can I just quickly ask Barbara, what comes out of the unplugged wells? What exactly happens?
Well, you have the gas, the so-called natural gas, which is methane, but it's also accompanied by a lot of other gases like ethylene and various other gases that have been designated cancer causing, as well as here in Pennsylvania, most of the wells are drilled in areas that are very radioactive. So there's a lot of radon and radium and various other radioactive materials also coming to the surface. And these wells the well bores are made out of metal. And when they cross any moisture in the ground, they rust. And so, of course, the most moisture, the moist area that they're going to traverse is going to be where there's underground water sources. And so all of this stuff is going to leak into those underground water sources, and you know, your water wells and et cetera are going to be uptaking all of this material. And this happens ongoing back to the first wells that were drilled in the early 1800s. They only started legislating in the 1980s that people had to post bonds to cover the wells. They used to be able to just walk away, and that was it. And they still do, because even though the law says that they have to plug them, they just ignore it. And the DEP and the EPA and you know, they just, you know, look the other way and let them continue to do whatever they feel like. So
Yeah, there were, I can't remember the exact number. It was around 1,000 wells that were drilled that weren't plugged. I have to pull the amount.
No. We're talking at least 750,000 wells just in the state of Pennsylvania.
I was talking for 2023 or 2 or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just for the 1 year. Yeah, no, there's a bunch. But okay, wonderful. So then let's see, Jane, Patricia, would either of you like to share?
I'll go because I have a question. When she said 750,000 wells, are those the ones that are basically defunct, or is that a composite number for active and inactive?
No, those are just the abandoned wells.
Oh,
And the before this legislation came from the early 1800s, we don't know how many of those there are. These are just the ones that we know about, that we can point at and say we know that it's there.
thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Gosh, that took me back to a terrible memory. We had a climate exhibit over a decade ago at the Natural History Museum in Cleveland, and they actually had a speaker in for Pennsylvania, and it was a gobsmacking event, quite frankly, because you know, you can't see 750,000, but what I saw was just astounding to me. And that was in the era where Ohio was going to follow suit. And, you know, we're still on that edge because we have a cracker that could go in it at any point in southern Ohio and Cincinnati. And I went to a presentation on that, and she set the configuration, and it's just appalling as we head into climate change, which is my thing. And I am a member of the Northeastern Ohio Sierra Club in Cleveland. We've done some minimal work with single-use plastics, and it's been primarily one person. But our Cuyahoga administrator and others actually went to COP. And, you know, I mean, that's like a hallmark type of thing. And our Northeastern Ohio coordinating agency is working on a climate plan for the city of Cleveland. So it's kind of like because we know our canopy suffers desperately. So we have a canopy crusade, but it'll be interesting to see where NOACA takes this. I just wanted to add a couple things, and this goes back to Dennis Kucinich, but Captain Charlie Moore is the man that discovered the gyra, and he is a PhD. And I sat next to him at the Natural History Museum, and I said, well, you know, my thing's climate change. And he looked at me and he said, if you think that's bad, you should see what's going on with plastics. And even then, about a year after his initial discovery, he showed us pictures of fish that were dissected with multicolored pieces of plastic. And last week, I went onto the internet, and it's just atrocious when you see pieces of plastic. These aren't micro, they're visible to the naked eye. So if any of you, and even though it's dated, you know, the fact that it's so enormous, you might want to resource Captain Charlie Moore, Moore. And another thing I want to put people onto is that a Dr. Tadero, it's something like T as in tall, Edero. He spoke at the Cleveland City Club, and you would go into the archives. What he espoused.
Well, can you say his name again, please?
Yeah, I think it's Tadero, Tedero, but it's December 15th. So if you know the date, the archives come up with a date. But this is so profound that you're having this meeting tonight. What he said, in essence, was bottled water undermines our democracy. And if you want to win it back, you have to espouse how solid and functioning and the clarity of your water. Now, in this topic, he spoke of how literally the Black communities are being targeted. And in the Black communities, because of the lead issue, or you'll have a water main break, the Black community and the Hispanic community are the major consumers of bottled water. And then the announcement came out this week, I believe I heard on the news, 240,000 microplastic pieces in bottled water. So not only have these people amongst us, part of us that live in our communities, have been bludgeoned because of bank issues, the fact that they are a major consumer of bottled water with the microplastics in the waters, it was just astounding. And what he said, in essence, was it's reversible, because when you tout your clean water, then they get more active and they actually begin to vote because they understand that the government is working for them. And you know, given that the sign of the times with the tenuousness of our democracy, it would be wonderful to see some of the people here take that on. And he also spoke at the UN. He's been a consultant. I mean, he really has a fine bio.
Thanks, Jane, for those resources. Rebecca, you want to share with us about what you're concerned about and or working on? Rebecca, are you there? Karen, how about you?
Hi, I'm new to, I live in the same area as Tamala, but new to the area, so just starting to get my feet wet with a couple organizations and a couple initiatives. It's so impressive what you're all working on, and I'm gonna try to get up to speed soon.
Oh, great. Thank you, Karen. She's doing wonderful. We're working together with the Conneaguinnet Creek watershed stuff too. Susan, you want to share?
Yeah, so I sorry I missed the very beginning. So you're asking what I'm concerned about and what I'm working on.
Yes.
And what I'm concerned about is too many things to list here. Climate was my original topic, but after taking the plastics course at Beyond Plastics, I realized that plastics are a climate change issue. And so, I mean, I'm interested in all sorts of energy efficiency and, conversion, but now I've become plastic, doing a lot of local advocacy. And I am on the board and the sustainability committee for our local co-op. And so we're trying to get the plastics out of there. But I'm also interested in I'm in an agricultural region in Western Massachusetts and becoming very aware of contamination of compost, agricultural plastics, trying to clean up our food supply. And like I said, just like, I'm interested in EVs, I'm interested in heat pumps, I'm interested in, I have a science background, so science and engineering, so I am kind of been reading about and learning about now for, 5 or 10 years about like every aspect of this. I'm not good on policy and politics and advocacy and activism. So those things don't understand as well. But anyways, I think that plastics and agriculture, well, food sources has become, because it's also a public health in addition to a climate issue.
Okay, great. So I kind of can't see my screen too much. Is there anybody who has not had a chance to share?
Could I say a couple of things?
Yes, go ahead.
Libby? I guess I'll need to be working with Kathy. She had something up there on the screen about working with schools and recycling. I've been very concerned about no recycling on my local high school football field where I go hiking every day. And it's a disaster after any kind of sports game. We have a lot of community people that come over and use the field for various purposes, and people just dump stuff. I pick up stuff like crazy and recycle what I can. I've tried contacting the school only to get messages saying, oh, so-and-so can't pick up now, leave a message, or so-and-so's mailbox is full, you can't leave a message. I did speak with one person at the school who said that they don't handle their football field, that it's now handled by Philadelphia's Parks and Recreation Department. I've called them and talked about several issues about the football field. But with the recycling, nothing has been done at all. Occasionally someone comes in from the city, picks up everything in the trash bins and dumps it into a huge metal bin over there that they send in then I think a weekly or a monthly truck that takes everything out of the bin. They just pick it up and dump it. So nothing gets recycled. So I've become very concerned as to how to deal with it, what to do with it, how to take care of all of this, who to contact that might work. If anybody knows of anything, I would appreciate.
Okay.
Trying to bring it all home and recycle it. It just gets really horrendous.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you so much, Patricia. All right, so it looks like, just kind of looking at this, all of us are aware and understand the extreme toxicities of plastic, and mostly, aside from the microplastic and the nanoplastics, what we need to keep in mind is the chemicals, right? Because plastic equals chemical toxicity, and chemicals accumulate on it and bioaccumulate and move it around through the water cycle. So we do have kind of a couple of camps from this group that I'm seeing. We've got people who are concerned about like the health impacts from the microplastics and the chemicals. Synthetic playing surfaces falls heavy into that. And then I'm seeing another group of interest here, which is working with schools, working with restaurants to get them to, one, recycle what can be recycled, and to move away from single-use products. So there's some resources we can talk about for doing that. And then Barbara, your wells and stuff that can, you mentioned legislation, but it's kind of also over here with the health impacts too. And Kathy, oh, Kathy Cook, you didn't talk. Are you still here?
She had to leave early.
Okay, so Kathy has been working, actually she might have actually said something, or either I just know it. Kathy Cook is working on a bag ban in Westchester. And she's a part of the Women League of Voters. And so she and I try to work with some legislation. How many of you would like to look at legislation and find legislation in your states and in your areas to work on? If that is something of interest to you, Safer States is a really good resource for looking up what is going on legislatively in your state. So I don't know what you guys can see here, but like there's a bill tracker from Safer States. And so I just put in my zip code. And so I click Pennsylvania, and then it will download currently what's going on. So either you can look at this and say, oh, well, let me look at this bill. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Why? And I know, Hannah, you do this a lot, right? With Three River Keepers, trying to work on, legislation and stuff. And so, if you're interested in that, this is, a good resource to go to. Hannah, do you have anything that Three River Keepers is working on that you could use our help with, or that are you working with the SOS group at all?
I'm not sure if we're working with the SOS group. I'm still getting my bearings straight. I started pretty recently, but we've also been in like, all the other groups as well. But we're looking at a lot of different options for legislation, and we're actually in a lawsuit, right? Well, starting a lawsuit with a plastics manufacturer up here too. So there's like we're all over the place. And I'm really excited to dig into the Safer States stuff. I think that there's going to be things we'll need your help on once I figure out where I need to put all my energy, because there's so many things, like everything we talked about tonight is so important, and it's like, oh my gosh, but we'll get there.
I know, like, I'd like to see legislation on the synthetic playing surfaces and yeah, and then a lot of these here for the firefighting foam and the packaging with PFAS, they're weak. They're just not good bills. They leave out like major things, you know, like the polystyrene leaves out like eggs, meat trays, and I can't remember the third thing. And that's what half the polystyrene is in, you know, your grocery store. So I don't know.
No,
But
it's definitely a they're really masterful at creating legislation with loopholes, is what I've seen.
yeah, for sure. So, one thing you guys, I noticed some of you talking about different topics that we are going to be addressing in our series of a conversation on single-use plastic. Can you guys see this at all? With the little picture with the puppies in our collection of walking around a parking lot? Do you guys see this on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we already had why plastic recycling is a myth, and if you missed that, you can go back and look at that. And that was a really good session. We had Sandy Fields who talked to us about the advanced recycling, and Maureen from FOCO Trash Mob. She was a former person who worked at a waste facility, material recovery facility, and they talked to us about recycling. February's, we are going to be talking about the synthetic playing surfaces, and we are going to have Kathleen Michaels from Safe and Healthy Playing Fields, as well as another grassroots mother who is trying to stop these synthetic surfaces being put in her neighborhood. We have a toolkit that you guys can use if this is something you're interested in too. At the end of each of these conversations, there'll be a small like presentation to just kind of catch people up, you know, if not everyone's aware about the topic that we're talking about. But then we're going to, you know, really open it up for dialogue and other people's expertise, which we had on our first session, and it was really nice. So if you know, have any knowledge base and or questions, it's really wonderful for you to come and contribute to these conversations. And we'll have a short ask during the session and then one afterwards. So the one afterwards for the safe and playing surfaces will be to be going to your school superintendent, the director of your parks and recreation, and your municipal leaders, and give them the toolkit, the PowerPoint, the recording of the experts and our testimony and everything, and tell them, hey, you know, don't install, and if they have, don't reinstall, and basically give them information. So that's, you know, a neat thing that you can work on. We some of you talked about the connection between our food and agriculture and compost and bio compost and solids and all that. So we're going to have, that was supposed to be February, but I have a really good speaker coming for that, and they weren't able to do our February, so we've bounced them to April. And then the bulk of you, I want you to really look at this on March, because most of you were interested in this, and this is tackling single-use issues in your schools, in your restaurants, businesses. So most of you tonight were interested in that. So I would like for you to, you know, help with, you know, planning the action that we can have, you know, for post after this conversation, and as well as, you know, attend. We have here, let me just move this over. if any of you want to help contribute in any way with these conversations, that, whether it's from planning to coming up with, the action for people to walk away from, to bring to your community, whatever, just let me know. But for, it's kind of like we have our title, description, purpose, resources, resources for after our conversation. We, put in who our audience is. We want to put what legislation is out there or what legislation we want. So if you want to help fill in any of these, that'd be great. And here's our actions. And then, we have roles for people and then our order of show. So we did that for our recycling myths. We've got our reuse going, and we've have the other one that I have going so far is the bio sludge and composting. So I haven't had a chance to start working on the other ones yet, but you guys are so welcome. Just put in chat if you're interested in helping, get these conversations going in any way. And if there's something specific, you want to do, whether it's provide resources, help get speakers, help define the actions afterwards or anything, just let me know. So is there anything in the last 10 minutes that you guys would like specifically for an action to do for us to take? One of the things that you can do, I told you there's two good there's actually many good resources, but for the, let's see, this one, for the March one, we have the FOCO Trash Mob. We're going to be doing a Panera email letter, and so we'll talk to you guys about that at that time. But plastic-free restaurants, bring your own, skip the stuff from upstream, and Beyond Plastic, Skip the Stuff are excellent resources. So are you guys familiar with those, or would you like to be? Because, we don't have to wait until the March to start working on this. We can, I could have a separate session to kind of just introduce you guys to the basics of this if you're interested, and we could start planning our action for March, or anything else. Open forum, let me know. What do you guys want to do?
David, you're on mute. Were you trying to say something?
Was. Tamala, another resource, I think you're aware of Yayoi. You may have even mentioned Yayoi and Ithaca, who started or co-started usreduces.org. I think that's so they're launching kind of a BYO program or template for, and I'm going to try and do it here in Saratoga, where you ask business owners to put stickers on their windows and welcome and kind of have generally accepted reuse.
Yeah, she's right.
It may be part of that, of her Ithaca, but it's a separate site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's usreduces.org.
I think that's this one right here. Does that look like it's the same?
No. Oh, well, I mean, so they're holding a sticker, and that's Yayoi. So, but US Reduces is a resource, and maybe there's a link to from Zero Waste Ithaca. usreduces.org. Yep. All one word.
Yeah.
Similar, but anyway, if you wanted to have a focused BYO campaign, I would go to US Reduces.
Yes, that's in here, and yeah.
And they're creating an affiliate type of program or a map. You can put your organization or your town on there.
Yeah, Yoye is going to be one of the speakers so far. We've got lined up, in Maureen.
Okay, so she'll talk about that. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. We've got her going. Thanks, David.
Yes, yeah, US reduces plural, or yeah. Gonna stick an S in there. US reduces, you.
So can I just, has anybody gone and started going into restaurants and made some action on that part and how they did it? If anybody's done that? Like, did you just walk in and I'm just, coming to the point where we're trying to come up with how we do this, and you have to know how that restaurant functions. First, you have to know what their problems are. So I'm just wondering if anybody's engaged the restaurants, any of them, and how they approached it, if they've had success.
I don't know.
I've read a lot of the guides, and I've been talking to a lot of restaurants recently for my event, but they all kind of make the same recommendations. First of all, catch them during a non-peak time when they're not serving. And come at them with answers and resources and help, and of course a financial, a break even, or at least a financial model, so that you've done all the legwork for them, and it's effectively their decision. Either they can, adopt the plan and save money in long term, or keep using, the single-use disposables. But
Realistically, what a restaurant can do, like somebody's here from Upstream, I know, and that was you. Yeah.
Ashley, yep.
I've been looking at Upstream, I've been looking at all these things, but realistically, if you're on the West Coast or East Coast, you might have these places that can provide dishware and wash it and bring it back. And we don't have anything like that over here. So I'm trying to think realistically, what can restaurants in the Midwest, where everything's backward, basically, ask of a restaurant, what can they realistically do for takeout, and in person, if they're sitting in, yes, you can hopefully you could get them to switch over to reusable dishware, because many don't. And I'm just wondering where people.
One valuable question, I don't know if any of the guides ask this, but ask them to tell you about pre-COVID and what they did differently. So make sure, Tamala, by the way, you put an S in there. And
oh, that's what's going on. Okay.
I've always noted it in your newsletters.
I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, do you notice where it's sending me, David, without the S?
Because you don't have an S, right?
I know, but it's disturbing. Do you see how they've got it's
yes.
It's bad, right? It's very bad. I'm like, oh, all right.
But sorry, Kat, it was Kathy, right? There.
Yes.
So yeah, pre-COVID, what they did. But so what I am finding is that there are a lot of neglected dishwashers out there, and a lot of restaurants don't even get full, industrial dishwashers. They usually have just tubs and sanitization. And yes, a full restaurant will likely have it, but in my town, there's a lot of unused dishwasher capacity.
I was telling Tamala, even when I worked at a daycare, they had dishwashers, but they were more likely, like you said, to use sanitizers in a sink. And there's a lot of, especially with COVID, there was a lot of push to use disposables.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I've learned about bars. They have glassware sanitizers that aren't full dishwashers. So that might not serve. A lot of that, but not dishwashers for plates and things. Or food.
Kathy, you were asking, and this is something that I know, it's probably, I know Tamala is going to say it's not the best solution because it's still treated, but I'm wondering if obviously clamshell might be the worst, or the styrofoam. If you use a paper takeout, it's still going to be coated, but it might not be quite as bad, like the old Chinese takeout. I don't know. If you don't have a dishwashing available for takeout. If you can't use dishes.
So we have about 3 minutes left. So just to kind of finish up with what Kathy's doing, what I think would be useful is, we could possibly hold a meeting before the March session, and where we could kind of get up to speed with bring your own because you can start small, Kathy. And so bring your own is just basically like a sticker that you design. They have like a template, but you kind of put your name and maybe your own image or whatever. And then you just go to stores, restaurants and say, hey, would you like to be a part of Bring Your Own? And they could be bring your own bag, bring your own like after you eat, takeout container, or your own mug, or at your coffee shop or whatever. There's skip the stuff. So maybe you just start with the restaurant. Honestly, I go to a restaurant and they always put a straw. And even if it's in paper, my daughters say that it still gets thrown away. So even if you don't use that straw, it gets pitched the moment it hits your table. So, you can just start with like smaller things. And so they skip the stuff, maybe they don't want to skip all the utensils and all the plates and whatever, but you can start them with straws and, work your ways. But we have a lot of resources and, stuff. And then like upstream, they have a calculator where you can go into a restaurant and the restaurant can calculate how much single use items they're using and what it costs them, how many items of plates, forks, whatever. And then it'll calculate for them how much replacing it with reusables would cost. Ashley.
I just wanted to share, this is our sticker. This is the LB Reuses sticker. I don't know if y'all can see it. That's too blurred. But I'm happy to share with anybody who would like, kind of what we've done so far in Long Beach and how we created this sticker, and who I think it was Sticker Monkey or somebody. I can figure out where I ordered them from, and I'm happy to kind of share what we've done so far if anybody's interested.
Yeah.
Just stick my
Are you on
email.
the map? Yeah, yours map?
I don't know. I should be. I just put my email in the chat if anybody wants to email me.
Ashley, would you mind getting together with me and we could figure out a time before the March to get together a session to introduce some of these, concepts?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
And then maybe out of that, we could determine one takeaway action right away for after the March program, and then one that's a little bigger, for moving forward. Whether it's here, let me show you how to design your own stickers, and then people do it afterwards, and then we can meet again, or bigger than that, whatever. So, all right. Is there anything that any of you guys would like us to work on and schedule a meeting for, in particular for things that you are working on that we haven't discussed?
I'm hoping to do something with a Meals on Wheels. I broached the topic with the person who actually is the head of the program that runs it, and asked him if he was interested. He said yes, and I haven't heard back from him yet. So I'm giving him a week, and then I'm going to contact him again.
Okay. And so Kathy, you're working with Beyond Plastics on this Meals on Wheels. You went to the thing with Alexis last week. Okay, perfect. So you're connected. I thought so. Awesome. Yes, keep me posted on that and how that is going with you guys. Do you want to just quickly share with people what that entails, just real fast? And if you guys have to go, I just want to say thank you so much for coming this evening on Martin Luther King Day, which my whole family, had off work. Didn't really think about that. And I appreciate your commitment to starting off this year, trying to take some actions, from small to big, and just to get knowledgeable about this. And I really look forward to working with you guys to implement actions in your local community. So thank you. All right, Kathy, quickly tell us about the Meals on Wheels, because most of us have those in our communities, right?
Yeah, it's actually a doable thing in that, they all use plastic. He said that basically it's all plastic. But if you could get the place that's making the food and serving the food, if they would buy trays that they're plastic, they're polyethylene, but at least they're not going to be thrown out immediately, and they're also not going to leach as much as the stuff they're putting the food in now. They have to be that because they have to be able to be microwavable, to be dropped and not break, and those kind of things. So that's the only thing they can come up with as being doable. And so they put the food on that and take it to the place. You'd order 2 trays per person that you're feeding every day. And so you take one over and drop it off the food. And the next day when you get there, that person would then give you that tray back, rinsed, and you would give them their new tray of food, and you keep turning it around and taking it back. And then you have to have a facility, obviously, or some way to wash it and dry it and store it. So that's, you have to have all those needs. But it's a closed system so that it's actually, really easily doable, unlike takeout from a restaurant that goes home and, how do you get that stuff back? That's where I don't know how to work with restaurants about that concept. But go ahead, Susan.
Oh, I just wanted to say there's a new company, I guess you can call it, out of the Boston area called Recirculable, I think is the name, which is working on coming up with a consortium that allows restaurants to pool their takeout containers, and customers can return them to any of those places. And I think they've got they've just started maybe 12 or so restaurants. And I spoke with them about thinking about trying to get them to come out to Western Massachusetts. I think it's Recirculable without the U. But you need, basically it's really just a software program that coordinates, they'll start you up with some containers, but then they don't have people doing I think every once in a while they send someone out to try to balance out where the containers are, but basically they've got a pool of containers they're trying to spread among whoever their restaurant clients are. And there's a system, the consumer, the restaurant diner gets an app and signs out the container through the app, and then they have to return it within a certain amount of time. So they've kind of set up all the logistics for that. But you have to have a few, it doesn't really make sense unless you have a few restaurants that are going to, within a geographic area that people are going to be kind of coordinating, maybe sampling from different places so that all the patrons can kind of return them to the right place. So yeah, it looks like Barbara found the
Yes,
URL.
thank you, Barbara. I just
Yeah.
was capturing that. Thanks.
Pamela,
Yes.
could I get Kathy Smachula's contact information, since she's working on recycling in schools also? I'd like to be able to
Yeah.
speak with her if she has a possibility. Can you give her mine too?
I haven't worked on it. What I've been doing is actually watching the sustainability meetings in my community. They do have a good sustainability committee, and they're starting to work well now, trying to work between the city and the schools. They're different things, but they're cooperating finally. And I've just learned, I asked a high school student in the grocery store who was cashier, and asked her if they have recycling in the school, and she said no. Another thing that I was interested in that is an easy fix that I'm suggesting to the sustainability committee, and because they're now cooperating, maybe I'm hoping to have influence, is the vending machines. I asked her, do you have vending machines in the high school? She said, oh yes. And all the vending machines have plastic drinks in plastic, and not, and that's apparently an easy thing to fix, according to Beyond Plastics. And you can just request that things be put in cans. So that's one thing I'm also suggesting to the committee, that they contact and work with the schools to do that. but everything else is just thrown away, except the elementaries are putting their food to compost. The high school hasn't done that yet. And they're hoping, but so another idea would be to, you know, I don't know if they're serving food or how it works, but to think in terms of if they are composting food, it's not such a big step to compost dishes that are totally compostable. We have one good composting, industrial composting group here, at least in this area. And I don't know if they'd be overwhelmed with the dishes or not. I still have to contact them and see if that would be too much compostable dishes if they did make that kind of a big switch. So I don't have an answer with schools.
This brings me to a quick question. When we do have our meeting to follow up on how to, you know, move to reusables from the single use, there's going to those restaurants and there's going to schools. It would be good if maybe we could, you know, figure out which one, or, you know, either we'll need to make actions for both if people are interested in both, you know. So my initial thoughts would be to restaurants turn over a lot in my community, and you work real hard to get a restaurant to, you know, we have local restaurants and they turn over so fast, and by the time you get them on board and you get things, and they could, poor things could dive, you know, unless you're working with like Applebee's or a big chain. But if we go to the schools to get reuse in schools, what that will do, I think, would probably have maybe a bigger impact, because you'd be working with kids and maybe getting their environmental clubs and their, you know, groups, and it, you know, it could be their you know, video group, or even their English group or whatever, you know. It doesn't, just kids in general, it doesn't have to be from an environmental club, but getting them involved in this, in the leadership, the student leadership and everything. And then that would spread to all the rest of the kids in school and into their parents. And then, you know, you could push out from there. So, you know, that's just kind of like my thought is and then the school is more fixed. So maybe they could get that dishwasher that's hard to come by, right? You know, which seems to be a barrier and things. So what are you guys' thoughts before we're 11 minutes overdue and I want to be respectful, but quick thoughts. Yes, John. All right. So we'll put a pause. We'll get a meeting going again for this reuse, and we'll figure that out if we want to, you know, get our action being pushed through to the restaurants or to the schools, and then exactly how we can go about doing that. Thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful night, and please reach out to me if you need me for anything. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tamla. I'll get you a link to the recording.
Thank you. Bye.
Tamala, could you give the website where you find the archives of all the previous talks?